right, so although polar bears are the largest bear and black bears are the fastest bear, brown bears are my favorite. I think they're the cutest. I wanted to talk about brown bears today because I think they're interesting and I also love them. They're my favorite animal. So by the end of the speech, you should be able to describe 3 main points about the brown bear. The first one being their life cycle. The second one's going to be their seasonal patterns, and the third one is going to be fun facts about them. So, starting with the first point, their life cycle. As all lives begin, it's through birth. Brown bears are born between the months of January and March. They're born hairless and blind and rat-sized. So they're about this big. They're pretty vulnerable. Because they're tiny and blind and don't have any fur to keep them warm. After they're born, they stay 2 to 3 years with their mom. They learn how to do life, how to eat, and what to eat, and where to get their food, and all that stuff. After 2 to 3 years, they separate from their mom, and then they go and do life by themselves. At this stage, this is when they start mating, and they eat their food and stuff. They scavenge for their own food. They're going to be eating anything between, they have an omnivore diet, so anything between honey and roots and insects, and then fish and mammals, animals as large as deer and elk. And then, yeah, they're going to live up to 20 to 30 years. So that is the life cycle of a brown bear. Now we can zoom in to see what their life is like on a yearly basis. So every season we know that the life cycle, or every season we know that a bear's behavior and lifestyle changes. And so in the fall they're going to be eating, they're going to be gearing up for winter, they're going to be eating pretty much anything they can find every day during the season. They're going to be eating about 90 pounds of food every day. They're going to be weighing about 2 times more than they'll weigh after they wake up from hibernation in the spring. And they're also going to be digging their dens, so they're preparing for winter. That's basically the main point of fall. And then in winter they're actually going to be hibernating. They're going to start, sleeping in October to November, and then from then they're going to be sleeping or hibernating for 5 to 7 months. And then in the spring they're going to be scavenging, so they're going to wake up from hibernation, and then a week after they're going to start scavenging for food. The only food that they're going to be able to find, since it's fresh out of winter, is plants, and then a couple insects that might be coming out for the season, and then carcasses that were left over from winter. And then in the summer, it's mating season, so that's what they're going to be doing. And then they're also going to be, if they're in Alaska, it's salmon season, so they're going to be going for the salmon. So now we've talked about the life of a brown bear, we've talked about the life cycle, what they do on a seasonal basis, and then now we can talk about fun facts. That's our third point. So the first fun fact I had for you was that they can be found on a bunch of different terrains. So I always thought that brown bears were just in like the Pacific Northwest, but apparently they're in regions of North America and Asia and Europe. They can also be found in deserts, in forests, in mountains, and then in ice fields, which is interesting. These are brown bears, so the polar bears are not the only ones who can live in ice fields. So I thought that was interesting. And then there's also a bear called a Gobi bear, a gobi bear that lives in the desert of Mongolia. So that was interesting. Another fun fact is that they don't pee or poop while they're hibernating. They just hold it in for 5 to 7 months. They develop what's called a fecal plug. Female bears also do not wake up to give birth, so they just give birth while they're sleeping. It's pretty interesting. They're also very good swimmers, and they can run up to 30 miles an hour, which I thought was interesting because bears don't seem that athletic to me. They're just giant and cute, but you wouldn't imagine them swimming and running 30 miles an hour. The other reason that this is impressive is because black bears run 35 miles an hour, and they are the fastest bear. So since brown bears run 30 miles an hour, that's not far behind, so it's still pretty fast. So I thought that was interesting. So in conclusion, bears are very interesting animals. We talked about 3 main points, the first one being their life cycle. We talked about how they're born between the months of January and March, and then we talked about how they stay with their mom for 2 to 3 years, and then they go and do life by their own, they reproduce, and then they die after 20 to 30 years. And then we talked about our second point, which was their seasonal patterns. In the fall they're eating, in the winter they're hibernating, in the spring they are scavenging, and in the summer they are mating. And then in the third fun fact, or the third point I had was fun facts. We talked about where they can be found, all the different terrains that they can live in, and then we talked about interesting capabilities of the brown bear. And so, Yeah, bears are very fascinating creatures, and I love them. I would like to leave you with this video.
At the river mouth, the bears catch only the tastiest, most tender salmon, which is exactly what we at John West want.
Oh my God.
John West didn't do the worst.
That's my favorite version.